Welcome to Reaching Out. I'm Gregory Floyd, President Local 237 Teamsters. Today, we have a very special guest visiting us from Israel. Former Prime Minister's daughter, a former member of the Israeli Parliament and government, the daughter of the late Israeli Prime Minister, Yitzhak Rabin, and current chair of the Rabin Center. Thank you so much for being on our show.
Good morning, and thank you.
Thank you. And before we begin, we just wanted to tell our listeners just a little bit about your father. In 1994, he won the Nobel Peace Prize, and unfortunately, in 1995, a year later, he was assassinated. And you have turned his memory into, I would say, a learning experience for all of us. I had the pleasure of visiting the Rabine Center in Tel Aviv this past summer, and what I saw, I was amazed. And we invited you to come when you were on your trips to New York to come on our radio show, and you accepted so graciously, and we want to thank you for that.
First of all, I would like to thank the Teamsters that have been our very, very loyal supporters along some years. And then I would like to comment about my father. No doubt he was one of the greatest leaders of Israel in recent years. And he has a very, very impressive and significant career. Yet, because of the circumstances of his assassination and the way he was shot in the back in a peace rally, there was a decision in the Israeli government to commemorate him at large. That's why there was a decision about building the Rabin Center in Tel Aviv, which is no doubt a very, very impressive building. You've seen it.
Yes.
And the heart and the core of the Rabin Center, which is actually a presidential library, the heart and the core is the museum. And the museum is not only about the life and the death of the big leader, but most of the exhibition is telling you the history of the state of Israel. And it goes parallel to my father's biography, and it intertwines, and it shows how he was a loyal and a very, very dear representative of the values and the good things of the state of Israel.
When you mentioned that, you just took me back to when I first entered the building, and I looked at the archives, and I looked at the footage that you have. There was so much that we learned from the beginning of Israel, the state of Israel, to your father's untimely death. And I got to appreciate things, and I could remember where I was in that point in history. And I was just going through my childhood, just growing up, and I understood a lot more. And I would advise anybody who goes to Israel, or anybody who's thinking about taking a trip, to go to Israel and visit that center, because you would learn so many things.
I hear it very often, especially from groups who come from out of Israel, that after visiting the museum, they kind of understood a lot more about the complexity, about the dilemmas, about our life in the Middle East, about us as an only democracy, how as a multicultural society we coped with building a very, very strong democracy in the region, which all of it is non-democratic, under the threat to our very survival along the line. And in spite of all those obstacles, how many achievements we have that we are so proud of. And it shows, of course, my father's part in these achievements. And of course, I would like to invite whoever plans to go to Israel to visit this museum, because I'm sure it will fortify anybody with all the evidence needed to know and to understand us.
And our listeners, I know a lot of you are generous, you're listening. How can you help the Rabin Center? Well, they have where you can write to the American Friends of the Yitzhak Rabin Center, 866 2nd Avenue, New York, New York, 117. Or the website, www.friendsofrabin.org. And Rabin is spelled Rabin.
I think that contribution is not just financial support, it's participation and understanding that we share values, because we feel that we Israelis share the values of democracy with your people here. And you are our main partners, and we expect you to feel the same towards us.
Now, going back to the center, because you just opened it up in 2010, and I could see it's a remarkable structure. And you had mentioned that it's a presidential library. I went to one presidential library. And I went to George H. Bush's presidential library in Texas. Yeah. And I saw the similarities in the history, but I could tell you there were a lot of things that I focused on that just gave me a real experience of Israel, going throughout Israel. And when you said that you're a democracy surrounded by non-democracies, I can appreciate that because I saw the Syrian border, the Jordan border, the Lebanon border, and then you have the Mediterranean Sea, which is, I would say, your only friendly border.
Right.
And it's like Long Island being surrounded by Pennsylvania, New Jersey,
right,
and Connecticut, and not having friends on either side.
Yeah.
So it was a difficult situation. I could see the borders because I could actually look from Israel and see the Syrian flag, see the Lebanon flag, see the Jordan flag.
Part of our activities in the center, we bring every year a group of professors to international relationship and political science from all over the United States. Every year we host a group of 25 professors, and we design for them a visit to all the parts and all the aspects of Israel to see at first hand what is it all about. And the first thing that we do, we take them in a helicopter to see the sizes and to see how small we are and how vulnerable we are to whatever can happen from Lebanon, from Syria, and what actually has happened in the past. So what you're talking about, a small democracy surrounded with enemies, is very, very significant and essential to the survivorship of Israel and to what we are dealing with, and the importance of strengthening our society. And this is the main goal of the Rabin Center, to bring youngsters, students and young soldiers to the museum and to show them the history. Most of them are not fully aware of all the details of the history. We made a really transparent and reliable narrative of the history of the state, using only material which is totally original. And so they go through the history and they see the whole story. And what we insist on is proving to them that we were coping with a lot of dilemmas, a lot of challenges, and the best way to solve a dilemma is by dialogue. And the biggest message of this museum is dialogue. Let's deal with every dispute, with every differences. Let's deal with it with open minds. Let's try and listen to the other. Let's try and understand the other so that the minorities, will not feel frustrated and will not use violence as means to express their frustration, because we really need to lower violence.
I want to thank you for coming on and just chatting with us for a few minutes. This is Gregory Floyd, President Local 237, and you were listening to Reaching Out. Our very special guest, Dalia Rabin of the Rabine Center. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.